What's happening, guys? In this video, I'm going to be doing something totally left field from what I usually do, and this is Daytona 24. This was the very first endurance race that I had ever taken part in, and I want to share with you guys what happened because this race was amazing for both myself and the team as a whole. So yeah, you can see we've just hopped into the car, and this is already like 4 hours into the Daytona event. Well, for us, it was already roughly about 8 hours. Mainly because we had actually signed up for the 12 o'clock race, but due to some net coding issues and just other issues that we had in the 12 o'clock race, we decided to abandon that one and move to the 4 o'clock Daytona race. And this is a completely day-long race. It's 24 hours, as the name suggests, Daytona 24. So it is you and your team, and you all take different stints, different shifts going into it. So for us, we didn't really have a plan going into it about who would drive when. We sort of just winged it, to be honest, but we managed to do a good job with who went when as time went on. So we finally reached my stint, my very first stint, and I was so nervous going into this one. But in my head, I was just thinking to myself, need to be as consistent as possible. Even if I need to drive slower, then it is what it is. You know, even if we lose time, it's better to lose a little bit of time per lap and keep the car on the track than it is to try and push and then end up bottling it, which, to be honest, we do end up doing, which you'll see very, very soon. It's getting a little bit more dark now. I believe I was in the car. This was my first and second stint. I'll talk a little bit more about stints in a moment. But yeah, this was during my first stint, so it was starting to get dark. This was around about 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock in the evening, as we let the LMPH or LMP2 cars, I'm not really sure about what they're actually called, pass. Those cars were super quick compared to ours, of course. We were in the Audi GT3 car for this event. But yeah, as you can see now, we are in our second stint right now, and it's completely dark. This is when the track's at its quickest. I was a bit too confident going into this corner. Once I'd gotten some of the laps in, I was feeling a lot more confident. I was trying to push more. And as I said just now, it's a lot better to lose time and just keep the car going rather than push and do exactly what I've done here. And I cost the team big time here. We were currently in P2 at the time that I crashed. You can see that I can't even drive the car properly here. And after we come out of the pits, we were P20 and we were like 10 laps down from P1. So yeah, this was a massive mistake. These things happen. It was a heavy car, it was cold tires, but I just had too much confidence going into that corner, and I cost our team quite big. So I decided to jump out of the car a little bit early and get some rest, and the guys did absolute bits overnight. So shout outs to everyone. We had Ben, we had Cameron or Presto Evans, we had Joe, we had Joseph, we had Josh, sorry. We also had Matt212, who's another Formula 1 creator as well. And obviously we had myself. So yeah, over the night, they did absolute bits. They managed to claw their way back into P2 by the time I actually hopped back into the car, which was around about 12 or 13 hours later. So yeah, roughly about then. I think it was around about 10 o'clock when I had that little crash, and then right now when we're back in the car, this is 11 a.m. the next morning. So I had went and gotten some rest, came back in, and now we have to pick up the mantle from what they did over the night and see if we can continue this good performance and stay in P2 and try and get this podium overall. So yeah, going into my third stint, as I mentioned earlier with the stints, basically a full stint was roughly about 2 hours for our team, and that consists of 2 smaller stints. So you'd have to do 1 stint, pit, refuel, get extra tires, and then do another stint, and that counted as a full stint, which was roughly about 2 hours each. So yeah, I was back in the car for about 2 hours, and at this point I'm not gonna lie, I was very nervous getting back into the car just because of what we had done before. So I was driving a lot slower than even normal just because I was a bit nervous. But as time goes on, I started to get that confidence back again, and we pushed the right amount. I did have an incident, which I don't think I've actually shown in this video, where I was overtaking going into this triple chicane, and for some reason, my head just completely went left field. I blanked out, and I sent the car wide into those black barriers there. Luckily, we didn't actually get any damage from that, so I managed to just continue pushing on, and you'll see what happens towards the end of my stint and towards the end of the race as well. Going into this, the LMPs, I'm not gonna lie, they made me very very nervous. But when it comes to Daytonas, since the GT3s are the slowest cars, is the basic racing etiquette for these is just to stay on your line and let them overtake you. It's their job to figure out where you're going to be and then overtake you, which sounds quite simple, but it's not. There was tons of times when I made mistakes and just didn't know where to place my car, but luckily the LMP2 cars, they would either slow down a little bit or they would just, you know, go around me finally. As you can see, we go to the left, let him go down the inside, and as soon as he passes, that's when I sort of turn in towards the apex and continue on my way. But yeah, in terms of pace, I think I did a very decent job. I didn't have a lot of practice before this, mainly because I was in bed with a bunch of different infections, which I'm still recovering from now. But yeah, I didn't have a lot of practice, so it really did take quite a lot to learn the track and then even catch up to the rest of the guys in terms of pace. But I think we did a fairly good job, and this third stint, other than the incident where I blanked out and we went wide, was a very, very good stint and gave me a lot of confidence moving into the fourth and final part of the stint for me in this race. And as you can see now, we've got low fuel pressure. That just means that we've not got a lot of fuel, so we're in our in-lap right now. And again, overall, good pace. This track is quickest at nighttime. The Michelin tires, I presume, just don't have the same operating range as the Pirelli tires in Formula 1. So at nighttime, it's really quick, and then as the day goes on, as the track gets hotter, the pace sort of slows down in the car. Our car in particular as well, the setup just wasn't really suited to the hotter temperatures of the daytime. And I believe at this point in time, the track temperature was around about 20 to 25 degrees. It was getting a little bit hotter as we get closer and closer towards noon. And yeah, so the times were a little bit slower. But I still felt pretty good at the car at this point in time. Yeah, it was mainly when the car was pretty heavy and was cold tires is when I was feeling a little bit nervous. But as the tires warmed up, that's when I started to push a little bit more. And this stint, as I said, was fairly good. And yeah, you can see that LMP2 car passing, just sticking low in the oval section, just trying to give anybody who is even remotely around me the indication, just to say to them, look, I'm definitely going into the pits. So you have to go around the outside, hop back into the pits, we refuel, we change our tires, and we go on for our final stint in this race. And yeah, I enjoyed myself so much, guys. This was definitely the most fun I've had in sim racing in probably a year and a half. I definitely recommend, if you can, put a team together and do an endurance race in 2023. You will have so much fun. The guys were very helpful to me in just bringing me into this, not being angry with me whenever I made mistakes and stuff like that. It was mainly just for fun with us as well. Luckily as well, we were in a low-ish split. Now there's a bunch of different splits just because there were so many drivers doing this event. I believe in the 4 o'clock race, which was the final one that we did, I believe there was almost 2,000 drivers that had signed up for this. This was a huge event, and I believe at its peak, iRacing had like 20 to 25,000 drivers driving at the same time. It was ridiculous. This event is huge in terms of iRacing. iRacing does have some netcode issues, which you might have seen there. I might replay that post edit. You can see the guy just flew up in the air quite randomly. However, it was pretty stable, honestly, other than a few netcode issues, which is obviously going to happen when you have so many different drivers from so many different countries driving at the same time. Other than the small hiccups, it was pretty good. iRacing was very stable and definitely helped with you know, just having a lot of fun on the game. Now you just seen we got an incident point on the top middle right there. Now when it comes to Daytona, when it comes to iRacing in general, you have incident points, and if you get a certain amount of incident points, you will end up getting some sort of penalty or disqualification. Now when it comes to Daytona, as a team, you have 100 free incident points. Once you cross the 100 incident point mark, you will get a drive-through, and then after that, every 20 incident points, you will then get another drive-through. Now I want you guys to remember that because that is very important to what happens towards the end of the race when Cameron is in the car. So just keep an eye on that one as we continue our own laps there. And yeah, I had so much fun with this, guys. You have to do an endurance race if you want to get into iRacing. Honestly, I think it's the best way to get into iRacing is to just go and do an endurance race. This thing is incredible, and especially if you have you know, a bunch of friends around you as well. I can assume that in the higher splits it was a lot more stressful than this, and I think if we were in a higher split, it would have been a lot more stressful for me personally, just because every small mistake would have cost us a lot more. But yeah, now that I've had at least one endurance race under my belt, I'm ready to go for a higher split. Hopefully, not necessarily in the next Daytona, but in the next endurance race I do, hopefully we're in a higher split where it's more competitive and I can really showcase what I can actually do in any sort of car here. So what we're going to do now is go around the circuit and talk about just the braking points and stuff like that. So going into the first corner, braking at the final white line, braking early and then rotating the car around early, just because obviously GT cars are pretty heavy, so you want to turn them in early to get that rotation. In this next corner now, I believe you brake at the 50-meter board, again turning early and just use the curbing on the inside to try and rotate the car. You can use a lot more of the exit at this corner than I did there, so a little bit of time to be gained there. And then this next left-hander is completely flat out once the tires actually warm up, but you do want to lift when the tires are cold. This next corner being a very heavy braking zone, brake late but then turn the car in early and again use the inside curbing just to get the car rotated and then get your foot back on the throttle as soon as you can. And then this corner, very tricky. You want to brake deep into the corner and then get the car rotated in. I struggled to do that for the majority of my stints, so yeah, I had to brake a little bit early just to get the car rotated without going too wide on the exit. And then you guys who do NASCAR will be very familiar with this section of the circuit. Obviously we're at the oval part, and yeah, it's completely flat out, of course, in any sort of car really, and you're just preparing yourself for the final chicane, which there's a 200-meter and a 100-meter board, I do believe, and you brake in between those, so around about 150, and then you want to just carry as much speed as you can around this triple chicane. So much time can be lost because you lose time at the chicane and all the way down to the first corner as well, so you want to be super careful with that. And then yeah, that's pretty much a lap around the Daytona road circuit. It's a pretty easy circuit to get used to, I will say that, but still, if you want to really find those extra tenths, those extra thousandths of a second, that's when it starts to get a little bit more difficult, because it does depend on the type of car that you're driving. I believe with the LMP2 cars, probably best to just go wide and then bring it in like how you would in Formula 1, but with these GT3 cars, they're so heavy that you really just need to turn the car in early, hope that the tires grip up, and then use any sort of curbing that's around you to sort of help rotate the car around. So yeah, that's pretty much how you drive around those circuits. And at this point, I was doing 1 minute 45s, 1 minute 44s. The pace was looking very good. We were letting the LMP cars by whenever we needed. Thank you to Presto and to Matt for spotting me with that, because it was very hard to see what you're doing and then also, you know, keep an eye on what's happening with the LMP cars here. But yeah, this was, I believe, the fastest lap we did in the entire race, me personally anyway. It was either a PB or it was very close to a PB. We did a 44.5, which, to be honest, considering the time, this was around about midday, getting close to 1 o'clock now. The track was pretty hot, so the fact that we were able to pull out a lap time like that in this car, yeah, that was a very good lap, and I was really proud of that one. And yeah, you can see now, back to low fuel pressure. We're just about to head in from our final stint, and I enjoyed this so much. Thank you to everyone that was with me in the team, and yeah, just thank you for inviting me into this one, because this was so much fun. And yeah, I don't really know what to say at this point, guys. This was an incredible experience. If you've never done endurance racing before, it sounds like it's really long, but trust me, it goes by so quickly. And yeah, I just wanted to show you guys this as well. This was when Benjamin got into the car. There was an LMP behind him. He brakes super late going into this corner. He actually locks up the rears. You can see he spins, he hits the barrier, and then he goes right into the back of us. Now that didn't really look like a massive hit, but that actually disaligned the wheel in the car. Now, you saw what happened when I had my big crash earlier on, how we was driving straight but the wheel was crooked. That's basically what that little tap had done to our car here, and that's how it was for the rest of the race. We do end up going into the pits here. However, even though we got a few fixes done to the car here and we did lose a little bit of time, it didn't fix the issue entirely. So for the rest of the race, Ben and Cameron had to drive when driving completely straight and having the wheel bent, which was really difficult going into like left-handers and and stuff like that. But yeah, we move on towards the end of the race now. And as you can see, I am spectating this guy here, who's a part of the Rabbit Racing Gold team. These guys were actually in P3 at the time, and they were just ahead of us. Remember the incident points that I was talking to you guys about before? Well, we were currently on 119 incident points, which means if we just got one more incident point, we would have gotten another drive-through. So we were pushing, Cameron was pushing hard to try and catch up to these guys because we wasn't that far behind them, and we were smelling that podium. We really wanted that podium. These guys did really well as well. I'm assuming during the night they had a few incidences, but yeah, once it got to the morning time, these guys were really rapid, and they were really difficult to catch up with. Even with Cameron, who was one of our fastest drivers, he was only catching them up a little bit per lap. However, on this lap, he starts turning to the left, and that's because they had a drive-through penalty, and we could not believe what was happening. We thought that they were going to the end, but they had a drive-through penalty, and that allowed Cameron to pass them, and we were in P3. However, we still had roughly about 6 to 5 minutes to go, and if Cameron had gotten one more incident point, that would have given us a drive-through, and we would have been back in 4th place. So it was a super tense last, say, 5-10 minutes of the race. And the way that iRacing works is, even once you've crossed the line at the end, if someone was to crash into you behind you, you would get some incident points, which means we would have crossed over the 120 incident point mark, and we would have gotten a penalty, and we would have lost our P3 here. So it was a super tense last, say, 5 to 10 minutes of the race. And yeah, what I'm going to do now, guys, is leave you here and show you the final lap of the race from our POVs. And yeah, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to smash the like button. Enjoy this final clip of us finishing in either P3 or P4. I'll let you guys see what happens there, and I'll catch you guys in my next iRacing video, which should hopefully be soon.
This has been magnificent, boys.
I love how quiet it is right now.
It's so echoey.
Joe, Joe, this is stressful, man.
Yeah. Joe, they're all stressed. I am fine.
Don't say that, mate. Don't say that yet.
Yep.
He says that. He says that.
You'll get
Crosses
past
the
us.
line and gets clarted.
You're on your last lap, yeah?
Yeah. Yep.
Whereabouts?
Coming up to the chicane, right? Just go past. Hurry up.
Imagine they power drivers.
I've literally just messaged Gary going, don't hit us after the finish. Gary, please!
Please don't do it.
No.
Hold on. Let's check the wheel. Let's check the wheel real
I
quick.
won't celebrate until we're out of the car.
Remember to stop on the track. Stop on the. I know.
Just get through turn one. Just get through turn one and brake. Just right. Get out. Get out.
Come on.
Yes!
Yes. Let's go. Let's go, boys. Let's go, P3. Let's go. Yes. He's done it. He's done it.
It wasn't even in the end. No.
What is it?
They got disconnected on the final lap.
Who?
No way.
Who got disconnected?
Rabbit.
No.
Oh, that's heartbreaking.
Oh no.
Oh, that's
Yes.
gutting.
P3, look at the trophy we got. P3. Yes!
Woo!